Hey, this is Aaron,
And this is Kristen.
and this is Drive Mode Show.
Welcome back. I feel like you should do the Bill and Ted's like, you know. Yeah, we are those
Ah,
people.
well, um, today I think we're going to talk about a Kia, right?
Yes, we are. Let's talk about the Kia K4, Kia's newest sedan.
Yeah, the K4 replaces the Forte, so it's the compact entry level. Um, has a starting price around $23,000.
Yeah.
Both of us have driven it, so this is a pretty good. I don't know, you get like a double impression only
That
here.
sounds like a wait, isn't that a John Lennon? What am I thinking of? Double something. Anyway,
007.
007. Double impression of the Kia K4. Go. Aaron, what did you think?
I think that for the price point, it is probably the best vehicle you can get as a small sedan right now. And it probably beats out some of the small, like the compact SUVs as well, just because for this price, you're getting a whole lot of car and a ton of technology, and it looks beauty. So Kia has a beautiful design that concept that they're running with all of their sedans, and the K4 is just really pretty.
It is really pretty. They did a nice job in the exterior. I would say, um, yes, for the price, really good. My husband drove it once and he was like, "Ugh, it doesn't have enough power." I said, "Well, that's not really the point of this car. You know, it's
Yeah,
not meant to be powerful. It's got enough power, especially at that price point."
yeah. There's two. Sorry, I have to. Somebody's calling me. There's two engines for this car. Um, actually, yeah, it is two separate engines. There's a 2-liter four-cylinder. That's the standard engine in this car. And it's 147 horsepower, which I think is just about right for this car. It's not fast, but it doesn't lack confidence. So you don't feel like you're gonna not be able to make the merge or whatever. Um, it just doesn't have a ton of pep. That's my chief complaint, but that's true of pretty much every vehicle in this category. When you're talking about budget small vehicles, this is pretty much, I mean, you have a small engine and a CVT that's pretty much standard across the board. And so that's how the drive is. Now there is a GT line that adds the turbo to it. And then that boosts horsepower by, I want to say it's about 40 points. I think it's 190. And that's a sporty version of this car. It's not like you won't compare it to like a Porsche or something. We're not,
Oh,
yeah, we're not road and track, but it is a good feeling car, if that's what you want out of it. You lose some fuel economy with that, but I really like the K4. I think it was very well done.
I think it's beautifully done, and they didn't cheap out on the design. On the outside, like you said, it's really pretty. And I would put it up against any other sedan or small crossover in that class. And on the inside, I feel like they've made some improvements over some of their previous vehicles. For instance, they're not using that dual purpose switch. You know how, like, if you push one button, it's the audio, and the other, it's the climate control. I didn't like that. That drove me crazy. This one has none of that. It's very streamlined. I thought the controls were easy to use.
Yeah, and he is one of the few companies that very quickly caught on that people like to have knobs and buttons. They're not a big fan of putting everything onto a screen. And in this car, you, I was surprised because I expected the interior to have a lot of cheapness to it. Um, but you have to actually look for it. It's not obvious and blatant. There are cheap points in the interior. They do have to make their price point somehow, but you actually have to look for them. They don't immediately jump out as that's some super cheap plastic and that's a terrible placement of something or whatever. You have to actually look for it. And I give kudos to Kia for pulling that off. It's pretty rare that it happens.
Agreed. I think this would be an excellent first car for a young professional. You wouldn't be ashamed to carry even your boss in that car if you're a sales rep, for instance.
Mhm.
But I also think that it could be a good first car for a teenager because it's got all the safety features on it, and it's pretty enough that it's not going to embarrass a teenager either.
Mhm.
You know, it's not something peppy and fast that they're going to get in trouble for.
So it was interesting to me because standard equipment includes things like heated mirrors, which 5 years ago those were luxury only. Really, it was pretty rare to see you. It was top end package or the luxury model that had that. Um, and the large infotainment screen, 12 point something inches, that big infotainment screen is also standard. Um, but the base model comes with steel wheels with plastic covers. You do have to upgrade to the next price point in order to get alloys. But honestly, that is a very small concession in my mind for the kind of price it's very hard to find a vehicle under $25,000 right now. There are
Agreed.
very, very few of them, and for a lot of first-time buyers, that that's that's kind of the point. Like you hit that, and the payments start getting too high. Um, so I really did like this car. The drive quality is good. It's not great. This isn't a sports car. It's even in the GT version that I drove. It's not sporty per se. It's just a little bit faster and quicker on the get-go. Um, but it's not a slog either. You're not driving this, it's not heavy or crappy or unable to make a corner. It just doesn't have a lot of sport quality to it, which honestly, if you want that, you really have to go into higher end models. You really have to spend the money to get that suspension tuning and everything else. And that's not who this is sold to. Um, and my biggest impression is that I am just super impressed that they were able to make such a low price point with such a quality vehicle.
That's what I thought too. I thought that this would be a perfect car for someone who lives on a pretty flat terrain. If you have a lot of hills, especially in the base model, you might find some frustration getting up the hills. Not that it can't do it, but it's not peppy, as you said. So a young professional, someone who wants a brand new car and hasn't been able to do that before, this is a great value.
And as an around town A to B vehicle, it's pretty much perfect. Very large trunk space. I was pretty surprised at how much trunk space there was back there, um, because it has that what's the term for it? The fastback look. Um,
Right.
but yet the trunk opens and there's a ton of space between the lip and the back seats. Uh, the back seats are pretty good. If the person up front isn't too tall, then the person in the back will have plenty of leg room. Um, I got my kids in there just fine, but they're teenagers, so they're pretty flexible. But with me at 6'3" sitting in the front seat, the person behind me needs to be fairly small or short to fit. But a child's car seat, even rear facing, will fit just fine, even with somebody my size in the front. So that is a big bonus because I think a big market for this is going to be young families, early in their career. Maybe they're just about to have a kid, or they just had a kid, or a single mom, or a dad who has the kids part time or something like that. This is a really good vehicle to start out like that.
I agree. I give the K4 a thumbs up.
So there you go. We get thumbs up. The Kia K4. So yeah, I think we wrap it up. This has been
Agree.
Aaron.
This is Kristen.
This was Drive Mode Show. Talk to you again soon.